Hello, everybody. My name is Kate Montserrat. I am director and owner of Simplify Consulting. I'm absolutely delighted to be here today, and thank you very much, Women in Asset Servicing, for having me and for hosting this webinar. So the Women in Asset Servicing theme for 2023 is Unlocking the Power of Your Network. So we thought it would be a fantastic idea to launch this year with a webinar on mentoring. So we're really excited to be talking about this topic with you, and also launching the Women in Asset Servicing Mentoring Scheme, which Kate is going to talk about a little bit later on. I am joined by some amazing panelists today, so I'd just like each of you to introduce yourselves to everyone, and then we will crack on. So Anju, would you like to go first?
Hi everyone, I'm Anju Kiran Kumar, and I work as a technical lead in Northern Trust. So I've been with Northern Trust for the last 7 years, and I'm here to introduce my life story and real life experiences on mentoring. Thanks,
Anju. Amira and Julie?
Hello everybody, I'm Amira. I have a 20-year history-ish in financial services so far, and I'm currently head of sales at Novia, the investment platform. And Julie and I set up the Mentor Standard in 2022.
I'm obviously Julie. I'm an award-winning mentor and a business psychologist. And as Amira just said, I'm co-founder of the Mentor Standard, where we offer courses, community and content for anyone interested in elevating their mentoring practice.
Thank you both. Jane?
Hi everybody, my name's Jane Brown. I'm one of the lead consultants at Simplify Consulting, working with Kate Montserrat, that is, not Kate Weber. I've got over 20 years experience in financial services as well, so seems we all have quite a lot of experience. But yeah, nice to meet you, thank you.
Thanks, Jane. And finally, Kate.
Thank you, Kate. Two Kates on the call today, which will confuse everything, no doubt. So my name is Kate Webber. I work at Northern Trust and also founded Women in Asset Servicing. It will be our 5th year later on this year. So it's a wonderful start to our year. So I'm going to go off camera and come back later.
Thank you, Kate. So fantastic. Thanks, everyone. So today we're going to be covering a few things. So firstly, Amira and Julie are going to be kicking us off and talking about the differences between mentoring, coaching and sponsorship. We're then going to hear from Jane and Anju about their own personal experiences of mentoring and coaching. Then we're back to Amira and Julie, who will give us some hints and tips on how we unlock our network, which will be really invaluable. And then finally, Kate will talk to us about the Women in Asset Servicing Mentoring Scheme that we're going to be launching. You can use the Q&A function on Zoom. We're going to be having some time for questions a bit later on, so please feel free to submit them at any time. So without further ado, Amira and Julie, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kate. So today, for any aspirant mentees out there, we're going to reveal the one skill that, if you properly use, will completely transform how you approach mentoring. We'll examine the differences between mentoring, coaching and sponsorship. And for any mentors out there, we'll reveal the origins of mentorship, how it began, and how a fragment of 3,000-year-old wisdom can actually transform your mentoring skills today. So the one question we're frequently asked is, what's the difference between coaching, mentoring and sponsorship? Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, and I think we'll start with, we have an expression in the Mentor Standard that we use to try and understand the differences between coaching and mentoring. So we say that a mentor has really good answers for all the questions that you've got, whilst a coach has really good questions for your answers. And they really do challenge your thinking and challenge your personal development in a very different way to a mentor. So we find that mentors are really there to give advice and guidance, and often they're not paid. It's a voluntary role, it's a voluntary position. Whereas coaches tend to be paid, they tend to be professionals with qualifications. They've done quite a lot of work on their self to try and bring out the best in people that they're working with. So it's a different sort of relationship. And where sponsorship comes into this is invariably a more senior person, either in your business or in your work environment, who takes on the role as your personal champion. And they are going to be in rooms that you've not yet got access to. They're going to be around tables that you're not yet invited to, and they'll be your spokesperson to try and open those doors and opportunities for you.
I think the thing is, if you're out there and you're desperately clinging to the belief in meritocracy, that's all well and good, and that will probably get you somewhere along the way in your career. But what got you here isn't necessarily going to get you there. And the there that we're talking about today is working in a company that you've chosen for yourself in that position, which challenges you every day, which energizes you and invites you to step into your full potential. Because hard work and effort and work ethic will only get you so far. To truly reach your potential, you really are going to need a sponsor. That person, as Amira said, who's advocating on your behalf. And the first step of building that path to securing sponsorship is to build a relationship with your mentor where you can display both professional currency and relationship currency. So let's just have a look at what I mean by relationship currency. So if you've ever come across a book by Stephen Covey called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's a classic. It's been decades now, I think, out there, but it's one of the first ones that I read that really got me into psychology, and is a classic and stands today still as a really good book to ground you. Stephen Covey talks about having an emotional bank account between any two humans as they interact. So you make positive payments into your emotional bank account by delivering good standards of work, by doing anything positive for the other person. They're like deposits into that bank account. And occasionally, we're all human, we all might make a mistake or two along the way. And when that happens, we have to put our hand up and say, sorry, my bad. Didn't mean to do that. It's my mistake. I'm owning that. And that's a withdrawal from that bank account. And the emotional bank account really dictates how much somebody will give for you. So if you're thinking, it sounds quite callous. It's not if you go about it with the right intent. How can I influence people at work? How can I build my relationships? That's a really good way of thinking. When was the last time I really did something of benefit for the other person? How can I go about increasing those interactions? So if you like, that's your relationship currency. And performance currency, well, that increases every time you deliver at work over and above expectations. So when you get people around you who are potential sponsors or potential mentors, they're looking at those two things. They're looking at the relationship currency you have with them, and they're also looking at the performance currency that you have.
And what we try and do at the Mentor Standard, the business was formed out of our passion for mentoring. And the fact that we believe that mentoring really is the key to good career progression. And there are plenty of stats out there that support our passion and our desire for it. So if you are a mentee, you are 5 times more likely to get a promotion if you're engaging in a mentoring relationship. And we often get asked, what's the pros for a mentor? Well, they do slightly better, actually. A mentor is 6.5 times more likely than their peers to get a pay rise or a promotion if they're actively engaged in a mentoring program or mentoring another individual. So we took those principles within the Mentor Standard, and we try and prepare mentees to get themselves ready for a good mentoring relationship, do some of that groundwork themselves. And we really try and help mentors discern what a good mentee would look like to elevate into that kind of position of protege. And essential to that really is your professional network and building that relationship currency.
So let's just summarize where we're up to now. One of our core standards is simplicity. So let's keep this really simple. Coaches, they draw out insights and knowledge from you that you might not be aware that you had. They're often paid. They're very skillful at using questions. Mentors tend to take on the role voluntarily. They provide advice and guidance. That's the key difference between a coach and a mentor, is that a mentor will give you their opinion. They'll give you the lessons from their own experience, and it's that will help fast track you. There's a statistic out there that 84% of mentees said that their mentors helped them avoid a costly mistake at work. So if you look at it as, if I want advice and guidance, you know, it's really a mentor that I'm after. If it's somebody, usually a longer term process to sort of sit down and really work out what's going on for me and my direction, that's probably a coach you're looking for. And a sponsor, well, they use their status and their power to advocate on your behalf. You will very rarely find anyone walking straight into a sponsorship. A mentorship is normally that first port of call to build that relationship, because if you think about it, a sponsor's going to take a risk for you. They're using their reputation at work to open doors for you and broaden your experiences. So you have to have high relationship currency with them and high performance currency with them to make it work.
So today we're focusing on mentorship specifically, and we're going to take a deeper look at that. So we define 8 different types of mentoring at the Mentor Standard, which can be blended to create, an infinite number of different kind of possibilities and experiences that you have with it. But they've broken, the core element of it's broken down into 2 types of mentoring. The first one is formal mentoring, and the other is, I think, poorly titled informal mentoring, but I'll explain why. So formal mentoring is that where in your particular organization, there could be a set mentoring program that's set up for you. You could be given a short list of mentors that you can pick from, or you're going to be automatically matched with somebody else. So you're not having much engagement in that, and it tends to be very kind of career driven or career led, because it's focused specifically on that company that you're working for. So informal mentoring, we prefer to call self-directed. So you're taking that informality or that looseness around it, and you're owning it for yourself, and you're owning that journey for yourself, and you're taking that self-directed approach. So the next bit of knowledge, I suppose, that you really need to arm yourselves with is that the type of mentoring you receive isn't solely reliant on who arranges it for you. So there are 3 other elements that kind of support the different types of mentoring that we've got. So the first is the age and or the experience of your mentor. The next is the number of people that are involved in that mentoring. And then the third one is the duration of that mentoring program for you. So I'll give you one example, because we haven't got a lot of time to go into all of them today. But I am personally mentored in a reverse mentoring relationship. So I am of the Gen X community. I am of a certain age. I've been around a while.
Quite impressed that today you admitted
I'm
that.
admitting it today.
And I go,
and I want to keep up to date with technology. I also don't have children myself, so I haven't got that natural link in to teenagers and the younger generation to keep us going. So I have a mentor who's in her early 20s, and she has influenced my banking, my stockbroking, keeps me current on all the different kind of social media that's cool, and avoids me making real faux pas with the language that I use. And today, Women in Asset Services is going to be launching a mentoring program themselves, which we would define as self-directed flash mentoring. And we're going to take a bit of a look at that later on. But now would probably be a good time for maybe Anju to join us and share her experiences of mentoring.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I'm here today to just share my experiences and all these terms I came across just last year and how amazing it was for me. So I joined Northern Trust about 7 years ago, and joined into a team where we were working on our skill set, and then that project got cancelled, and I was put into different technology which was new to me, and slightly something which I wasn't interested. But over the years, I felt like I fell into a comfort zone, and I was getting bored. I wanted to do things. I did my master's. I was doing things. I attended a diverse leaders program, but there was no guidance as such, and I wasn't making any progress anywhere. So I think that's when Kate Weber came into picture, not as a formal mentor, but as an informal mentor, sponsor. I think she had pretty much different roles at many areas. So there was a public speaking boot camp from Women in Asset Servicing, and that's when Kate approached our CTO saying, there is one place, do you want anybody from technology to join it? And I was chosen to join it. I was asked if I would be interested, and my answer was yes. And I went and attended that. And it was a surprise for me. We won a ticket. I think there were around 4 or 5 ladies who joined with me in that public speaking boot camp, and we won a ticket to a event called Fun Forum in Monaco. And again, it was Kate, probably as a sponsor, who just told my CTO that, see, Anju has got this opportunity. It would be good for her to go. And yeah, that was the story. So I went to Monaco, and Kate Weber was there. And there, I think we had conversations on career and future. And probably at that point, she was more like a mentor to me, gave me many perspectives, like you should go and research on, Northern Trust is a big organization. I was working in a silo, and she gave me a perspective, go and research yourself on the internet on what each each department does, and try and contact people. And also she gave me a perspective on, like, it should be like LinkedIn views. Your name should be always on in front everywhere, like keep doing things and make sure people are aware of it. Yeah, so that was a big change for me. So I came back and I officially approached somebody in technology to be my formal mentor. So I started talking to her once in a month, and then, yeah, I started attending interviews and trying to find and jump into different roles within the organization. And in between, I think I was nominated as a Tech Woman nominee, top 100 tech women in UK. And that was again another incident for me, which actually brought my names up across that event. That was another event in the central London. And I won that award. I was one of the top Tech 100 women in UK. So I think
Amazing.
it's easy to fall into a comfort zone, and with the right mentorship, or because I had been hearing about mentorship for a long time and I didn't know what it was, or neither did I take any step to step myself to get into a mentorship or become a mentee. But I was put into it, maybe guidance from Kate and my CTO, but now I'm seeing the benefits of it.
Thanks, Angie.
Yeah.
And I think, well, obviously, I think Kate Weber is quite key to this, because we're now going to hear from Jane, who also benefited from experience of Kate Weber. And I think Jane's experience is slightly different to yours, Angie, in that I think yours was over a bit of a longer term time frame, whereas Jane, I think yours was quite a short, sharp, focused session. So do you mind just sort of talking us through your experience?
Yeah, happy to share my experience. So for me, I was given the opportunity to speak at a public event at the beginning of last year. Something that's really out of my comfort zone, something that I would never have ever considered even thinking about before. But there was, for some reason, it was something that I really wanted to do and to take the challenge of doing. But I knew to get there and to do it, I needed some support. So what we did is we reached out to our Simplify network, and as a result, I had a session with Kate Weber. So it was just one session where we met and discussed, what was coming up for me and what I was looking for. And Kate sort of drew on her own experiences really with public speaking, and helped me with some coping methods of how I might feel when I walk on the stage, and some of her own personal tips with how you can handle that rush of nerves, I guess, and just not to be overwhelmed. So she not only did she help me with that side, like the nerves, she also helped me with how to prepare, how to research, how to know and be comfortable with what you're going to say, how to handle a Q&A. It was like really practical advice from her own experiences that she was able to share with me. And I think the session itself set a foundation in that I went on after that to do 2 more public events last year. So for me, it's just such a valuable session. It was really useful. And as I said at the start, it was so out of my comfort zone. I would never have thought of doing that previously, like I just wouldn't have done it. So to have someone like Kate take the time to spend that with me was really valuable, and really I do appreciate it very much. But for that kind of mentoring session, it wasn't a time expense, if you like. It, you know, we had an hour and a half, and it was, you know, we got through the session in that way, and we exchanged some emails before and after, a bit of support, and then a feedback, you know, on how it went. And then that was that for that particular mentoring need that I had.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Jane. And from your perspective, Kate, just being involved in both experiences, I suppose, from a mentor perspective, do you have a preference on kind of a longer term relationship, or do you quite like the short, sharp help that you provide?
I really like both. The thing I find about mentoring is something that that actually Julie picked up earlier about. As a mentor, I get much more out of it, I think, than anybody who spends time with me. I learn so much more about other people. It enables me to rethink some of the things that I myself are doing when going into the room. So it doesn't surprise me that people are 6.5 times more likely to succeed as a mentor, because as a mentor, I get exposure to so many different people's thoughts and perspectives on the world. I learned a lot about my own preparation for going into public speaking just by sitting down with Jane. I learned a lot about IT and what Angie wanted to do, and some of the thoughts that I had around Northern Trust and the things that I didn't understand by talking to Angie. So those conversations give me as much as I get back, if not more.
Thank you, Kate. That's great. So Amira and Julie, I think, are you going to talk a little bit more about kind of tips to unlock the network and, you know, help people, I guess, with some of the practicalities?
Do you want to take us back 3,000 years, Julie?
Yeah, I'm going to invite you to step into a time machine with us now, and we're going to travel back 3,000 years. This will all become clear, crystal clear, as women, why I'm telling this story in a moment about the origins of mentoring. So the origin of the word mentor comes straight out of ancient Greek mythology, and the story itself is actually rather epic. We all know the story of the Trojan War, you know, the one with the wooden horse. Now, Odysseus was called to fight in the Trojan War, and he knew he was going to be away for a while, but he didn't quite realise it was going to be for 10 years. Yeah. 10 years is an awful long time. And he was very much in love with his wife, Penelope. He was very beautiful. They had a son together, Telemachus. He had to leave all that behind and go to the Trojan Wars. Now, because he was away for 10 years, an awful lot of men started hassling Penelope because they wanted her hand in marriage. They were like, come on, it's been 10 years, Odysseus is dead, you know, you need to move on. Penelope really didn't want any of this. Telemachus was like lost in this. He was quite young, didn't really know how to handle all the politics that were unfolding before him. But before, and Odysseus thought this might happen, so just before he left, he asked a friend, and his friend was called Mentor. And he said, while I'm away, will you step up and just sort of guide Telemachus, you know, if he needs any help and advice? So Mentor said yes. The thing was, Odysseus asked the wrong man, to be honest with you. He liked Mentor, but Mentor was useless. All the advice he was giving Telemachus was exploding in Telemachus's face. It was all going hideously wrong. And meanwhile, on Mount Olympus, Athena, who was the kick-ass goddess of battle strategy and wisdom. I mean, if you're going to be a goddess of anything, that's a pretty cool one to be, right? But she was looking down and she suddenly thought, this is all going to go hideously wrong. Mentor is giving all the wrong advice to Telemachus. I have to do something. So she took on the form of Mentor and went down to advise Telemachus on what to do. So actually it wasn't really Mentor at all. It was Athena taking the form of Mentor, giving him all this brilliant strategy and advice, which meant that Telemachus managed to save his birthright and his inheritance. And Penelope didn't need to marry, and Odysseus came home, and they all lived happily ever after.
Ish.
till the next year myth came along. The point is this: when we tell that story, the woman in the myth gets lost. So let's reclaim her, because a lot of people out there are going, yes, it's Mentor. Mentor is the man that steps up to give the advice. This actually, it really was Athena, and it was her wisdom and awareness that made Telemachus suddenly realize what he needed to do, and it all began to make sense for him. Game changer. So if we look at that story, that origin of mentors and mentorship, and we put Athena as the main protagonist and not Telemachus, the man, we can learn a fair bit about being a mentor and the skills that we need to do, because Athena could have just chosen to come down in all her radiant glory as a goddess on Mount Olympus. I'm not quite sure how Telemachus would have handled that, whether he would have lost the plot slightly, but she knew, she had advice, she had experience, she knew the trick was to deliver that message in a way that Telemachus would listen, that he would actually take on board her advice and her strategies and act on them. So she had to make a meaningful connection quite quickly. And obviously she chose the form of mentor because, and here's the key, he was someone that he trusted. You know, it was a man that he'd been around for a while. So that trust was already there. So trust is quite central to how vulnerable we're able to be in a mentorship and how we're able to move on.
And I think the key here, which is not just about mentorship, and this is where it lends itself really nicely to the whole theme of the power of your network, is that the only way that Athena knew that she had to get through to Telemachus was the power of connection. So we want to explore this theme of connection with you now and give you 5 tips that we think will set you up well to create better connection with people, not just to expand your network, but then go and find those mentoring opportunities within your network and then hopefully beyond into sponsorship as well.
And that's true, making that connection. Sorry, I missed the baton there. You were looking at me. I was thinking about the wisdom that had just come for you. So I think really the mistake that we might make is because when we grow up as children, Amira, we sometimes grow up hearing that, you know, do unto others as you would do for yourself.
Yeah.
And actually, is that the right advice that people need to hear?
No. So we think this is quite deceptive. So we like to say, do unto others as they would like have done to them. And this just changes the nature of the whole conversation. And there is something that I discovered when I did some teaching with Seth Godin, and he introduced me to a concept called sonder. And sonder is that profound moment when you realize that everyone that's passing you in the train station, at the sandwich shop, has lives as rich and as complex as our own. And that we have to, excuse us, that's our front door going. And you have to find ways to see that you are just as much an extra in their lives as they are in yours. And our challenge is to look beyond our own little lens and our own sphere and find that what they want, what they're looking for in their lives and what they're striving for, so we meet them on their plane rather than just on our linear one.
And I think doing to others as they would want done unto themselves is really crucial to unlocking that key to making that first mentorship. And really it's what Stephen Covey would have said in the book I mentioned right at the beginning. It's, you know, first of all, seek to understand. We're all cultures in our own way, and perceptions are everything. So sometimes we can fall into the habit of thinking we know what's best for the other person, and it's just slowing that down to get curious. So let's look at the 5 things that we can do to deepen our connection. The first principle that we need to explore is, no matter what our difference is, there's always a bridge that we can find between ourselves and the other person. And by a bridge, I mean something of interest that can help us make that connection. So, for example, right now, and this actually is in my script, but my dog downstairs is playing this out for me right now. I don't know whether you can hear our dog barking, but we have a 2-year-old Labrador that waits till we're on Zoom calls and then will vocally let us know at points that she's there. So what I've just done there is I've said, yeah, I'm sorry if you can hear my dog barking in the background. That's a piece of personal information about myself that I've just shared with you. As a psychologist, we call that an offer. I've made you an offer. And that's the first tentative step towards making a connection, which is the first step to building trust in a relationship. Now, you've got 2 responses to that. you can choose to engage with that offer that I've made. So you could say, oh, do you have a dog? What type is it? And then we could begin building a relationship, and I could talk to you about how she never comes back if she ends up in a pond, and how I end up standing frustrated at the side of a river for 40 minutes. You'd find a little bit, we'd find some humour, we'd find another meaningful connection to deepen that. Or you could say, I'd say, oh, I'm sorry, you can hear my dog barking in the background. And you could say, no, I can't hear it. What time are we finishing? Now, in which case I've made that offer to make a link with you, and it's been blocked. Now, I'm saying this because I'm very agentic at work. I'm very task driven. So I can have a habit of forgetting the niceties of social etiquette when I'm really focused. And if that's you, if that resonates with you, you might need to just tune into these offers of connections from people around you that really do make a difference, don't they, Mira?
And I think this is where it does make a difference, right? So in the platform world, there are two gentlemen who have both passed away in the last 3 months, who I just give you as an example for these bridge connections. So the first one was Ian Taylor, the founder of Transact, and the second is Paul Etheridge, who was the founder of Presswood Truth, the cash flow modeling software that financial advisors use. And when you went on LinkedIn, yes, there were the headlines of founder of has passed away, but what really moved me was all the comments that sat below it. So they're not remembered just for that. They're remembered for enjoying a pint, loving a curry, really good at cryptic crosswords. Paul Etheridge started his business in a chicken shed, and he would invite people into his home to show them the software. And he was always there to help people with their business, with their growth, with their personal development. And that's what connection does for us. It takes a very linear one-on-one, I happen to know this person, into something much deeper, and allows then you to then develop that into more of a relationship, I think.
And it's these little things that are split seconds. They're split second like sentences of things that we can choose to engage with or not. But here's a tip now, if you're thinking, well, how do I do that? How do I broaden my network? How can I make that work? Take a look at your LinkedIn profile. If you go to the bottom of my LinkedIn profile and you right at the bottom, it says other important things you need to know. You know, my favourite season is autumn. We've passed that. I'm not enjoying this weather, but my favourite season is autumn. I'm passionate about white chocolate. You know, and so I know when somebody's read my profile, because I get incoming leads, and you know, somebody else that likes white chocolate, which is at the moment, I'm pleased to say, making a resurgence. But that's an offer that I've made. So you can just things that make you a little bit more human, that somebody can engage with on a level that isn't just work. Because I think the other thing is, when we network as women, we're a little bit more skeptical than our male colleagues. I know if I send out a connection request to somebody that I meet at a conference, I'm 98% certain if it's a man, they'll accept it. If it's a woman, they tend to think, what's she going to try and sell me? Is it going to be one of these like next DM messages straight through? And honestly, men don't tend to think like that. I know I'm stereotyping slightly. So think about how you might be able to use your online presence as well to make those offers and to make accessing you as a person a lot more, because you never know where those conversations can take you and where your next mentor might come from.
Yep. So the second step then, so the first is build a bridge, look out for those offers and those moments of connection. The second is curiosity. So what could I learn from this person? There is a common known stat that says that our lives, the top 5 qualities of people who are satisfied with their lives, curiosity is one of the most important qualities that sits in that. And also it's one of our core values at the Mentor Standard as well. So stay focused on the other person, ask questions to understand them better. So when we've accepted that bridge and we foster that attitude of curiosity, it helps us go to our third tip,
which is this: whatever happens with the other person, assume that they're doing it in a positive way. You know, sometimes if you're out networking or things like that and you wave across the room at somebody and they, you know, they might seem to blank you. And I actually did some public speaking on this once, and I said, you know, my hearing isn't this brilliant in this ear. and you would never know it. But if like I'm looking this way and somebody shouts hello at me, chances are I'm not going to hear you. And this person went, oh, I thought you were being really rude to me on that occasion. So if something happens and you're not sure why, assume Hanlon's razor, and Hanlon's razor says this: if you don't know what the outcome is, generate a few possibilities and pick the best one, because you will then generate that positivity and that warmness towards the other person, and that will be reciprocated. And the chances are we've made a mistake if we assume something negative about the other person anyway. So that's the third point. The third point is adopt a positive intent as you move forwards. And that can help us as well if we're making these connections and we're not sure, and you're looking at who to pick for your mentor. Don't always pick someone, another point, that is similar to you, because you don't want to surround yourself, you don't want to create an echo chamber. Having somebody that pushes you out your comfort zone and is a little bit different to you is good. There'll always be a bridge. So if you're looking at that, that's what will the bridge be? There will always be one that switches your thinking slightly so that you can look for that connection, that first step. Instead of thinking, gosh, how can I ever make that work? You can really scale back your thinking to what's the next step here. And the fourth point is we're all for being curious. We're all for going about this, but be respectfully curious. Don't dig too much. You know, if you sense the other person doesn't really want to talk about something, respect that to it, and then just loop back to looking for that next connection that you can make with that person. And our final point is an interesting one, because you've done all of this. Let's say you've done all of this. You're making your connections as you network, which is brilliant, because you're expanding your bank on potential mentors as you go along, which is something that we cover on how to take a strategic, longer view on that. But this isn't about reciprocity. It's not about expecting something back because you're doing that. This is just about giving, making those connections, sending out that positivity. If the other person doesn't react in a way that you think they should, go back to your Hanlon's razor, remind yourself that you don't know why that is, put it on the back burner and keep pushing forward. And I think this all sounds really easy, doesn't it? And we're probably sat there going, yeah, we probably do all these things. I just want you to think about the next time you were driving in your car and you let somebody out and they did not say thank you. So I just like watching the screen at this point for the people that I see smiles, and then, because if you're anything like me with all my sort of, you know, knowledge in my working life, if I do that and they don't say thank you, I'm the person there that goes, you're welcome. But thank you very much, no problem. That reciprocity isn't there necessarily, or you didn't pick up on it, but it doesn't alter who you are in that moment. So just remember that it's not about the reciprocity.
So if we take those 5 steps together, we think they're the key to building trust. We think it helps you gain a new perspective. It helps you challenge yourself. And I just repeat one bit of advice, which we've always found really useful for us, either as mentees or as mentors, is don't always go for somebody just like you. There is one brilliant question that I think Chris Lamb has asked us in the question bit, which is, do you go for somebody with a broad set of skills or something really focused? I think when you're building your network, broad, always broad. It's lovely to have a really good broad mix of people who will challenge your unconscious bias, who will challenge your thinking, who will make you learn and grow. It was great to hear from Kate how she embraces mentoring because of the opportunities it gives her to learn, and that's really beneficial. When you start getting a little bit more into mentoring, and you're looking for that person who can guide you that next step further, that's the time to get a bit more laser focused and go, is this person in the dev team because I want to go and learn about agile dev working, and they've got that skill set, so I'm going to go and ask them if they'll work with me. Or in Jane's example,
like Jane did when she knew that she needed to focus on that public speaking. It also makes it far easier for the mentor to say yes to you if what you're looking for is very specific, and, you know, maybe like an hour meeting or a half an hour just so I can learn about this. I mean, if it all goes well, you can make a cheeky ask at the end of it, you know, And you'll probably find if your mentors enjoyed it anywhere near as much as you have, that the answer will be surprisingly yes. But that's, I completely agree with that. Go broad to build your network, and then target what's the next step for you.
So we think at the end of the day, what we're trying to do as humans, I think, is to transform ourselves and challenge ourselves a bit. And this is the gateway to do that. And we think connections and building good, strong connections are the heart of it all. And we hope that Athena would probably agree with us.
Thank you both. That was amazing. So just to recap then, so the 5 things, just to prove that I've been listening as well.
Thank
Do you want
build
me
a
to
bridge?
answer,
Build a bridge, be curious, assume positivity, be respectful, and then it's all about the giving. So don't assume that you'll kind of get anything back. So those are kind of the 5 sort of key areas to build on your network.
Spot on.
Brilliant. If you don't mind, we've got a few more questions actually for you both. Well, actually for the whole panel, if anyone wants to jump in, if that's okay. So Nina, hello Nina, has asked, if there are no formal mentorships available through the workplace, what would you suggest people can do to become either a mentor or a mentee?
Go for it.
So yeah, well, I think we tend to sit back waiting for somebody to put a little medal on us saying, you know, you're ready to be a mentor now, well done.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you are interested in training, we do offer a certificate of excellence in mentoring if you're looking to up your skill level, but don't hold yourself back. Don't wait. One thing that's really common is we tend to assume that the knowledge we have up here, everybody else has, like it's common sense. Trust us, it's not common sense. And you really can help somebody else with what you have. You know, one of the 8 types of mentoring is peer mentoring, where there's no distance between you and experience. It's just the value of a different perspective sometimes. You know, Kate Webber talked about that. You know, one of the things she gets back as a mentor is a change of perspective sometimes, and that freshness that a mentee can bring. So yeah, I'd say just go for what we call self-directed mentoring. That's why we don't like the label of informal mentoring. Informal mentoring makes it sound self-directing. It's far more empowering.
Yeah. And what you'll have noticed from both Andrew and Jane, and one tip we'd give any mentee is spend some time on yourself and think about what you want. So both Andrew and Jane had clear ideas of what they wanted to achieve. And what we find sometimes is people will go into mentoring going, I've been told I need a mentor. I've been told I'll get a promotion if I've got one. Will you please be my mentor? And that doesn't help the relationship at all, because the mentor then becomes the person who's got to provide all the answers and almost give you your direction in life. And that's not what they're there for. That's what really puts mentors off. So if you're a mentee, spend a bit of time on yourself and have some clear focus on what you want to achieve out of it as well, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Miriam. I think, sorry, Julie. I think you've just answered Emma's question, which is how important is it to have a clear objective when commencing a mentoring relationship, or can objectives evolve? So I guess it's just being really clear up front about what you want out of that relationship.
I think so. I don't know whether Andrew and Jane can help with their own experiences in that as well.
Yeah, in my case, when I started with the mentoring, so after Kate suggested go and research different departments, I did my homework. I went and researched and I talked to people, and then so I chose a mentor from technology based on the department I wanted to go in, so that I can understand more on that department. So I had done my bit. So it wasn't like I knew where I wanted to go, and that's when it worked out well.
I think one way of looking at it is your mentor, usually, not always, is someone that's got more experience than you have
in that area.
In that area. And they're often, you know, they're successful in their own right. So therefore, they're going to be busy. They're going to have their own priorities and their family, and they're balancing all of this. So saying yes to somebody becomes easier if it's a real clear ask, or you're really clear about what you want to do as a mentor. That becomes so much more easier, and that's what you want. If you're seeking your mentor, you want to make it so easy for that person to say yes to. And if you do the due diligence properly, and we offer 2 courses on that. That will really help you select the mentor that you want.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Cool.
Jane. Yeah, I was just where you asked on your and Jane, and I cut in. Apologies.
Yeah, I think so. For me, it was a specific event that was coming up, so I knew that I needed some support with that. So yeah, it didn't sort of evolve beyond that as such. It was, I just needed the mentorship for that event, if you like.
And it shows that it doesn't have to be like a long-term thing, does it? It can be short, sharp, done, and it was successful, and then you learn for the next time. So I think that's a really good example.
That's actually what we recommend, Kate, is to start
with that.
If you think about the difference of, can you have a short conversation with me about this specific point, compared to, I'm looking for a mentor, would you be prepared to mentor me? One makes the mentor, gives the mentor enough information to, and the other one panics the hell out of people. It can make them run a lot. Also, because the word mentor, a lot of people don't see themselves as mentors, even if they can help you. So, you know, can you have a chat to me? I notice you've got experience in this, that would really help me, or matching that. I just wanted, there was a question, if I might, that just came in and said, what can you do if a mentoring relationship goes wrong? And the answer to that is, make sure you have a mentoring agreement. We have one. I think we should make that publicly available, actually. But we have one, and there's a clause in it. And the clause says that if at any point in the mentoring process it's not working for either one of you, then you can just end that relationship. There won't be any questions asked. There won't be any blame attached. It's what we call the graceful exit clause. So you should be able to walk away from that. If you're part of a formal mentoring program and it isn't going right for you, please do speak to your program leads on
coordinators,
because there's people can get, we don't tend to talk about it a lot, but people can get drawn to mentoring for the wrong reasons. So let's be honest, you can get toxic mentees out there that drain, and you can also get mentors out there that are not acting and not really being a champion for mentoring as we would like. So we call them bad apples, and there are things that you can do. So don't think you're powerless. Don't think there's, you know, I'm in this relationship, I've got to see it through to the end.
Absolutely.
So just on the traits of then a mentor, so question from Carl, can anyone be a successful mentor, or are there specific traits that you think are conducive to someone being more successful as a mentor?
As a psychologist,
definitely.
Our personality isn't fixed. And this isn't me speaking as a co-founder of them, and it's me speaking as a business psychologist. For years, we've been taking personality tests out there. We've probably all heard of them, Myers-Briggs. You know, are you a type A, a type B? All of these now they're not scientifically based. The science, if there ever was science, and there isn't behind the Myers-Briggs, if there is, it's been cast into doubt. It's nature nurture. What can you do? And the fact is, most of what you inherit, you can change if you want to a certain extent. So some people might come along and they might be good listeners, for example, but you can learn to be a good listener. You can learn to improve your listening skills. So we would say, unless you score really badly on the dark triad of personalities, so you're a narcissist or you're a Machiavellian, and these people are out there and they all are drawn to positions of power. If you're a standard person, shall we say, whatever that is, but you haven't got any of those traits, absolutely you can learn. And the difference that we're talking about here is, do you have a fixed mindset where you might think that your genetics and your intelligence levels are fixed, or whether you're a growth mindset and you think, well, this is my start point, how can I get better? And it's more of a scale, a continuum. So we actually believe that most people can learn to become really good, if not excellent mentors. And some people might just start further down that scale than others.
And only one thing to add to Carl's question. If you are coming at it with a personal agenda, that will not work for you as a mentor. So it goes back to that generosity and giving slant, where we tend to see formal mentoring maybe go slightly off the rails, is where a company agenda starts coming into the influence of the direction of travel that mentee is getting their advice, or if you're going to hold somebody back because it suits you better for them to be in the role that they're in. So
that can even creep up on you without
awareness.
So if your mentor is somebody that's very close to you in your line management structure and you're excellent at your job, they may not even be aware that maybe the reference that they're writing for the next job isn't as glowing as it might be. It's an actual, it's an actual thing. And so as a mentor, be aware of that. But
and then just one final question, it's almost a statement actually, whether you agree or disagree. So mentoring should be a fulfilling relationship between somebody with more experience and somebody with less, with the goal of helping both individuals become elevated versions of themselves. Do you agree? And that's from Merker.
Absolutely. My only caveat is that
more experience.
The one caveat I have is your definition of experience. So it doesn't have to be hierarchical, and it doesn't have to be linear. So look at my reverse mentoring experience that I shared with you. The person who's mentoring me has way more experience in how to live in our crazy fast-paced society than I do now, but she's 15 years younger than me. So don't assume experience is age, don't assume experience is job title, it's your breadth of experience. And yeah, for it to work, as Kate said, it's got to be as rich for her as the mentor as it's got to be for Jane. Otherwise, that's where they start to filter out and they start to phase and people start cancelling and postponing, and then all that good intent that you opened it with fizzle out.
Brilliant.
I agree. Now that we've defined what experience is, I completely agree. I was like, whoa, no reason to be. Because I think traditionally, the traditional way that people see mentor is somebody of a senior position in a senior role. And I think now it's far more important to learn to lead without authority. With it in the workplace, and what true collaboration really looks like, and becoming a mentor and going through that mentoring process is one of the best ways to learn that.
Sponsorship unfortunately does require some seniority. So sponsorship and that development of that relationship into one of protege and sponsor does become a little bit more of the hierarchical type of relationship, because that sponsor is going to be in that room where you're not allowed in yet. They will be in around that table that you've not been invited to yet, and that's the power of the sponsorship. And hopefully what we've shown you is start with building your network. Within your network, then you'll find the right people who can give you the mentoring that you need, and then you start nurturing those relationships so that you start to get into that sponsorship level. But the misconception is sponsor doesn't have to be in the same business as you. They might just need to be in the same field that you're in to help you with those opportunities.
And actually, that's a beautiful segue into launching of the Women in Asset Servicing Mentoring Scheme. Kate, are you able to just give us a brief overview on how it works, practicalities, that sort of thing?
Yes, thank you. So before I go into launch the service, the mentoring scheme, I just wanted to take a moment to thank the wonderful team here who put this together. It's been a fabulous session, the first of our 23 year, and Amira and Julie from the Mentoring Standard and Kate and her team from Simplify Consulting put something on that I have been completely wrapped up in for the last hour or so. And I'd also like to thank Jane and Angie for explaining their mentoring experiences. I love the concept of the emotional bank account. I love pictures, and I love the idea that that's how you explain relationship currency. It's a really powerful analogy. And I genuinely believe that we all need mentors at all times in our lives. And some mentoring relationships are that long-standing thing that we see in a lot of firms in our industry, those formal mentoring schemes that Gillian and Amira talked about that can go on for 6 months plus. And they are designed with those specific goals in mind. But when I look back at my career, I think about the points when a single conversation had a profound impact on me. And Amira called those self-directed. I didn't know they were called self-directed today. And sometimes they were conversations about career direction. Sometimes they were just pertinent feedback in a moment to help me understand how I could achieve better outcomes. And I often thought those conversations to learn from those experienced hands in a particular role, or to bolster a skill that I didn't feel was up to scratch. And it's the act of seeking out those individuals which has helped me to take control of my career. And that's what Women in Asset Servicing is all about. It's about helping you to be in control of your career. But without access to people with knowledge, sometimes it's hard to find those conversations that you seek. And I'm not unusual, a lot of people do struggle with that. And that's why the Women in Asset Servicing advisory team have had the same experience. And that's why I'm really delighted to launch the mentoring scheme today, to help you to find people who can help you on your career journey. On our website, Sarah and the team have created a landing page where you can explore the mentors that we have available to you. We've pulled in some really experienced hands, and we're hoping that we're going to continue to grow the pool of mentors. In fact, I even had somebody phone me today to say that they wanted to become a mentor. So if you're getting ready to think about your next role, or you want to expand your network, or to understand how business architecture works, or to navigate your entry into leadership, then we have mentors that will appeal to you. Julie talked about mentors providing experience, and our mentors have that in spades. So once you've reviewed the list and you've alighted on the person that you really want to connect with, please send your email to the Women in Asset Servicing email address, which is also on the website, with your name and your contact details and the mentor you wish to connect with and what you want to talk about. And once we've got those 4 things, we will create the connection for you. So as usual, none of this just happens. The concept of the creation of the mentoring scheme and the best ways to achieve our goals and the website and the connections and all those things take time. And for this, I would like to thank a number of people: Amira, Julie, Jane, Kate, and of course, Sarah. I would also like to thank all of our mentors who have offered their time very willingly as ever. We've got some amazing people on that website, so please just go and have a look. The scheme is designed to help you take control of your career. It's your career. So it's your personal goals, your speed, your way. We just want you to help connect, to make those connections with those people who will help you to your goals. I would leave you with the thought: successful people are not driftwood. They don't drift through their career. They're quite deliberate, and you can become deliberate at any time in your career. It's really not difficult, but we just need to help you put in a little scheme to help you find the right people to help you with the right steps. And that's what we're doing through the mentoring scheme. And so I, again, thank you all for your help to get to this point.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kate. And just echoing Kate's thanks to all of the panel today. Thanks so much for your time, and thank you for having me. The recording of this webinar will be on the website, and all the details about the mentoring scheme are also on the Women in Asset Servicing website as well. So it's just to say thank you ever so much for listening in. Thank you for all your questions, and we will see you soon.